to the Title I Professional Development presentation. Teachers and administrators seek to establish partnerships with parents to support student learning, and parent engagement is a key piece to building a sense of unity between home and school. The district's Title I Family Engagement Team has created the following presentation for faculty and staff to increase parent capacity. Later in the presentation, a how-to video on conducting a successful student-led conference will be featured. This approach is a new way of bringing families, students, teachers, and administrators together while placing the emphasis back on student achievement where it belongs. Enjoy the presentation.
Hello, we'll cover the following topics. We'll define parent engagement. We'll look at parent engagement in educational systems, discuss professional learning and some of its benefits, and lastly, have a special feature on student-led conferences. What is parent engagement? Well, parent engagement is a process that increases active participation, collaboration between parents, schools, and communities with the goal of educating the whole child to ensure student achievement and success. And parent engagement is embedded into multiple educational platforms, not only for Title I Parental Involvement Part A, but also the U.S. Department of Education's Family and Community Engagement Framework, the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards, as well as the Georgia Department of Education's TEKIS Performance Standards. And when parents are actively engaged in the schools, notable changes are reflected in higher grades and test scores, better attendance and more homework completed, fewer placements in special education, more positive attitudes and behaviors, higher graduation rates, and greater enrollment in post-secondary education. By participating in this training module on today, it is our hope that you gain the necessary skills and knowledge to build strong family and school partnerships that ultimately increase student academic achievement. And yes, we understand teachers and staff are overloaded with a variety of tasks, not to mention attending yet another staff training. However, when parents and teachers work together, we can create a change, resulting in an environment of encouraging, educating, and empowering our students to graduate on time and pursue post-secondary options. So you may be asking yourself, what else can I do to involve my parents in the education of their children? They never return any paperwork, or maybe never attend any of your parent-teacher conferences. You called several times, you never have a response, and now you're simply out of ideas. If this sounds familiar, student-led conferences may be a great option. Next, we'll have a special presentation by Ms. Bertha Caldwell on student-led conferences, who had a 95% attendance rate increase when first implementing student-led conferences at her school.
Hi, my name is Bertha Caldwell. I'm from Bibb County School District by way of Alexander II Math and Science Magnet School. I am very excited to be here with you today to have an opportunity to give you an overview of student-led conferences. I would first like to start with a research quote about student-led conferences. It is from Rick Stiggins. This practice is the biggest breakthrough in communicating about student achievement in the last century. When students are well prepared over an extended period of time to tell the story of their own success or lack thereof, they seem to experience a fundamental shift in their sense of responsibility for that success. There are three phases to the student-led conference process: the preparation phase, the actual conference itself, and the evaluation component. We'll start with the preparation phase. That is probably the most important part because it's the piece of getting it organized for the real conference itself. There are 4 different components in the preparation of a student-led conference. The first phase is what we call developing a plan of action. The second is creating portfolios. The third is assist students in designing a script. And then finally, preparing for the conference itself. When we talk about developing a plan of action, this is really where teachers come together, they sit down, and they really start to thinking about what that conference is going to look like.
Learn to play music with a recorder. That's one.
They first think about what is the purpose for having this conference. They talk about, are we going to set goals for the conference? But basically the purpose is pretty much the same, and that is to give the student an opportunity to share his or her story for that particular point of time for where they are working. They establish roles and responsibilities, and that means roles for the teachers and anyone else who is involved in that. For example, the teacher may serve as a facilitator. Sometimes the teacher serves as another partner in that particular role. They also talk about student roles and responsibilities. A big part of this, and for it to run successful, is to figure out how to skillfully schedule and the logistics of the conference itself. Questions that they must decide upon are, when are we going to hold the conferences? What time of day? Will they be one day or will they be multiple days? The important thing is to make sure that we take parents into consideration because of those who work. Conferences do need to held, or at least have an opportunity to be held after hours for parents who work. In the second part of the preparation, it is where students create, or the partners together, students and teachers, create portfolios. The portfolios are built around the curriculum that is designed for that particular grade level. When the student and the teacher are working together to develop those portfolios, they look for evidence. You'll hear teachers talking about artifacts. Those are pieces of student work where teachers and students together have selected that represent what they have done for that period of time. And usually each subject that the student takes, there is one part of that portfolio that is focused on each subject area. Finally, there is an opportunity for students to reflect in that particular portfolio. And what they're doing is reflecting on the progress that they have made or the lack thereof, and making some decisions about why they were successful or why they were not successful. Once the reflection is done, then students have an opportunity to set a goal. Wherever they are now, it is what the goal that they're setting is the goal where they want to be at the end of the next grading period. Their report card for that quarter is included as a part of the portfolio, and that's usually the last part that they show. But those are the items that are included in the portfolio. When we talk about assisting students in designing a script or agenda, the purpose for that is to give students an opportunity to feel very comfortable about that process itself. So when they sit down, by having a script or an agenda, they know exactly what it is they're going to talk about. They know all the components of it because it's right there as a part of that portfolio. It includes an introduction, a Dear Parent letter, and that letter they write to their parents so that they can tell them exactly what's going to happen during that conference. They present samples of their work, and as I mentioned earlier, those are artifacts that they have gathered over the quarter that particular student-led conference is going to focus on. And then we ask the parents to take time to write a letter back to their child that shares their experience with that student-led conference. The next part of the preparation phase is to prepare for the conference. Teachers must model for students what it looks like. So what happens during that time is one teacher will probably choose a student in the class and sit down with that student and model what it looks like. Once that happens, then students usually work in pairs and they role play, each other having an opportunity to practice the actual conference that's coming up. The key thing there is students have opportunities to practice, practice, practice. The actual conference itself, now that all of the preparation phase has happened, then we move into the actual conference. And there are two parts to that that are important: the presentation style and the presentation format. So when we talk about the presentation style, we're talking about the teacher personally attends each student conference. Now, there are multiple ways that can be done, and I think you'll hear some opportunities from teachers about how they do that, because there are multiple decisions that can be made about how that will happen. Teachers schedule multiple conferences simultaneously, and they monitor the group. So more than one conference can happen at a time, which makes it a time-saving venture. In the presentation format, what we are talking about is how students actually facilitate using that script itself. Remember, the script was generated during the planning phase. The last part of the student-led conference is the evaluation part. After the conferences are done, there are 3 people who participate from the student's perspective, from the parent's perspective, and from the teacher's perspective, how that conference went, what went well and what didn't. So I'm going to share with you some examples of questions that students are asked to respond to. From the student's perspective, we ask, were you organized for the conference? What surprised your parents most during the conference? Did you notice any trends that were concerning your work? When we ask parents to evaluate the conferences, these are some sample questions that they have an opportunity to respond to. And you can generate your own questions. These are just sample ones. What did you learn about your child during the conference? What 2 suggestions do you have to help increase or maintain your child's success at school? Were your concerns and questions answered appropriately by your child? Usually the teacher evaluation part is done within a group. The teachers come together and they respond to the questions that we have here. Did you have enough time to introduce yourself to the parents? What seemed to work well? What would you change in the process? And basically, those are the 3 different stages, just an overview of the student-led conference. So we'd also like to share with you some of the things that you can consider that maybe were not a part of what I talked about earlier. You can hold student-led conferences anywhere. Depending on your school, you might decide that you want to hold your conferences at community locations, making it much more convenient for parents. They can occur multiple times during the year. What we do is we hold them at the end of each quarter, each reporting quarter, so that the student's report card can be a part of that portfolio, but they can be held anytime during the year. You can consider allowing students to create personal invitations, reminders, and thank you notes to parents. And remember that you want to schedule those conferences at various times, because our goal with this is to make parents involved in this, give them an opportunity to be engaged in their child's learning process. So consider various times. And always remember, this is a real good tip, is the report cards are given out at the student-led conference. That in itself encourages parents to come and participate. But once they come, they will come again. And I would like to just take an opportunity to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you how we have done our student-led conferences, and I would very much encourage you to get this started in your school. I did not share this initially, but when I first started with my school, we had parent involvement at about 15%. When we introduced student-led conferences to our parents, our participations of parents coming to school and participating in their child's conference went to 100%, and that's a fact. So thank you again.
We modeled ours after some of the upper grade teachers, and we thought, we would try it too. And so we set up 5 or 6 stations in our classroom where the children would go through things that we had done in the classroom with their parents, and we provided questions for the parents at each station. so that they would, because a lot of times parents just say good job, and so we gave them guided questions. We saw a lot of success with the stations. The parents really enjoyed it, and we're going to do it that way again. The reason we did it the way the first time is because we had a lot of reservations about letting a 5 or 6-year-old be in charge of a conference, but they did really well, and they were really able to share their learning. One of the things that we did that was really powerful is at the last station we had a data station where the children were able to look at their data with their parents, and then they in turn just set one goal that they would like to meet for the next student-led conference. And they talked with their parent about things they could do at school and things they could do at home to help them meet that goal. And then we took that goal and we taped it in their cubby so that they see it every time they put their work away or every time they go over there.
Within that one classroom that the teacher is facilitating the conferences in, there's about 6 conferences happening at one time. And the teacher's just going around listening if parents have questions. Like our first one, we had a lot of questions about Lexile, what Lexile was, what it meant, which was great. It would open up conversation for parents to understand that terminology that we use in education, and really opened the door for the next conference, the second 9 weeks conferences. We showed them the Lexile for the first 9 weeks and then the growth for the second. And so parents were saying, well, how can we get this to change? How can we improve the Lexile? So those are the questions we're receiving, whereas the students are really going through their artifacts. And we decided from the beginning of the year in our team level that we would have the same type of artifact all year long. So the students would know the format of what they were going to say each time and would always be prepared and have more confidence with each conference. We have a different artifact in each subject, and they work in those independent classes or individual classes on setting goals and strategies for improving that artifact. And so the students go through and show each piece and talk about their strategies, and at the end there's a student growth and improvement plan where they write goals for math, reading, and then in other. And they talk about the goals and if they want any help from their parents and what they expect the parents to help them do with as well. And at the second conference, we decided to have the students go back, look at their first 9 weeks growth and improvement plans to see if they met the goals, see if they were in progress or if they had not met it at all. So they would retain a goal that they did not meet, retain a goal that they were in progress, and create a new goal if they met their goal. So they're working on that as well and setting those strategies.
This year, I got an opportunity to listen to my twins participate in the parent-student-led conference. It was very rewarding. Initially, I was reluctant to jump on board because I thought, oh, what are we going to have here? But my children did a very good job in articulating their strengths and weaknesses. I did not have to hear how they were doing secondhand. I got a chance to hear that firsthand from them, and I know it helped them in their development because with the second conference we participated in, I noticed improvements. I think part of that improvement was because they knew they had to explain to mommy what they were doing right and wrong, and that motivated them, I believe, to do better. So it's a very good and positive experience for both children and parents. And what I liked most about it is for them that they were able to articulate where they were strong and where they were not so strong, what their strategies were to improve on their weaknesses, and it was a very good experience.
Sí, me ha gustado como han prestado más atención este año porque he visto que ha avanzado mucho.
She likes the fact that he has more attention from the teachers this school year, and he's learned a lot more.
Es su primer año de él en esta escuela, pero veo que avanzó en todas las materias, en lectura también, que en lectura va muy bajo.
He's learned a lot more in this school year in all the subjects than he ever had before.
Se volvió más seguro porque era un niño muy inseguro.
He's more confident now. He was very, very insecure child before.
I like about the student-led conference is that I'm in control. I get to be the teacher, and I like my writing because I like telling my mother how I engage with writing that my teacher's teaching me. And I like telling her about the math, especially because she does it the old-fashioned way, so I get to teach her about the new-fashioned way so she can understand and help me out if I don't understand. And the social studies I get to read all the things, so I like reading. And in science, I like telling her about the plant cells and all the activities we're doing with it. So